just I had nothing but love for Ben. And then I did my tour in the fall where I had Tucker Carlson one night and Ben the next night. And I gave Ben the nicest intro a person could possibly give him. I mean, it was a conscious effort to build him up because people were already turning on Ben because the war had gone on so long in Gaza. There was a lot of blowback. Ben is, ardently 100% pro-Israel. And I didn't like seeing him twist in the wind. I felt bad for him. And I really wanted to sort of vouch for him with my audience to say, this is a good person, Let me tell you some wonderful things about Ben in the intro before he came out. But publicly, we aired that on my show. And he was in an irascible mood that night. We had a contentious back and forth on the stage, but it was fine. I had no problem with it. And he kind of stormed out of there that night. And I thought, are we not good? And why are we not good?
Megyn Kelly appeared on the Sean Ryan podcast and shared something that a lot of people seem to miss, but it deserves a much closer look. She gave more context about what she said was happening behind the scenes between Candace and Erika, adding a new layer to the public story. According to Megyn, Erika allegedly contacted her and asked if she could speak with Candace in hopes of getting her to stop the investigation and ease the tension. If that account is accurate, it's a major detail that could change how many people view the situation.
I think you and I differ on our angle with regard to, for example, Candace Owens. I think that what Candace Owens is doing right now is evil. It is evil what she is doing right now. Okay, and I say that again.
But what?
Because
like I didn't opine on whether it's evil or not. But my position is it's really none of my business. And
why is it? But I have a question. Why is it none of your business? I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erika of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
She's accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, yes.
And that's exactly what we're breaking down today. Megyn also talks about her public clash with Ben Shapiro and explains why she believes he came after her so aggressively after she refused to criticize Candace over the way Candace handled the Erika situation. To understand why this became such a big controversy, though, you need the full backstory.
And I think in that night, I thought it could be because of Tucker, because I'm still friends with Tucker, and those two were openly warring. And I was trying to get them not to. I love Tucker like a brother, and I've known him a lot longer than Ben, but I care about Ben too. And I tried very much behind the scenes to get them both to come together and try, for the sake of the conservative movement and the country, to like disagree, but not hate each other,
Every piece connects, from why Megyn got pulled into the drama to why she faced so much public criticism. And it all traces back to the controversy involving the mosquito guy. For anyone who missed it, this was the moment Ben publicly accused Candace of suggesting that Erika had something to do with Charlie's passing. What looked like a heated disagreement on the surface was, in Megyn's view, about much more than a debate. She believed Ben was trying to pressure her into saying Candace was wrong, but Megyn refused to go along with that.
Which was a fool's errand, but it was undertaken in earnest for whatever it's worth. And instead, it seemed to turn Ben on me, not Tucker. He had no problem. He wasn't into it. Like, he wasn't wanting to be close to Ben, but in no way did it make him feel angry toward me. It's only one side asking me to defriend the other side. And, but Ben and I had a text exchange after that. And he said in the text, something to the effect of, I agree that our friendship is more important than what other friendships we have in our lives.
She later made that belief clear and stated it directly during her own comments on the situation. Megyn later argued that, in her view, this was never really about Erika at all. It was about Tucker Carlson. She suggested she was being pressured to distance herself from Tucker, but she refused to do it. As Megyn described it, Ben first sent her a private message saying, "Your friendship is too important to me," and then later criticized her publicly during a speech at an event where he reportedly paid to appear. She viewed that contrast as deliberate, and it became a major part of her criticism. With friends like that, who needs enemies? That speech sparked an even bigger public feud, especially after Candace fired back with the now well-known line, "F you, Ben, and the midget horse you rode in on."
And that's what we should nurture and, prioritize. Because he'd been in my ear about Tucker prior to that. And I was like, I totally get where you're coming from, but I love him and I disagree with you. And I do listen to his show and I think you're misinterpreting where he's coming from. And he rejected that out of hand. And we had already agreed to disagree on Tucker, which is fine, right? That's friends do that. Like, I get it. He's in a very sensitive place. He's got family in Israel and I think a home in Israel and, obviously very, very committed to it. And the next thing I knew, Sean, he was standing on the stage at Turning Point, ripping me as a coward.
A coward?
Allegedly because I wouldn't call out Candace Owens and what she was saying about Erika Kirk. But that's not what it was about. It was about my not ending my friendship with Tucker, which is the thing that he had been pushing me on for weeks.
The exchange quickly spread across social media and became one of the most talked about moments in the dispute. Megyn also pointed to what she believed was a broader pattern, arguing that some people connected to Erika were using the public attention surrounding her widow status to raise their own visibility. She suggested Ben's actions fit that pattern, though that remains her interpretation of the situation. Megyn argued that Ben used Candace's questions about Erika as part of his criticism of Megyn, despite their longtime friendship. From Megyn's perspective, the public focus on defending a grieving widow was not the real issue. She believed the larger goal was to pressure her to distance herself from Tucker Carlson.
The same holds true of Megyn Kelly, a person I consider a friend, characterizing Candace as a young mother and thus shying away from condemning her actions or fibbing about them. That is a non-starter. Meghan Markle is a young mother. Ilhan Omar is a young mother. That doesn't matter. And when Megyn said this week, quote, "My goal and my job here is to try to understand, yes, where Candace is coming from on this," and says she sees no purpose in inserting herself, quote, "into this on one side," that is a moral and logical absurdity. There is only one moral side here, Erika Kirk's side. You know, the side of the widow with 2 children, whose husband was shot live on camera in front of all of us. Friendship with the person accusing TPUSA of a cover-up of Charlie's is no excuse for cowardice.
That's how Megyn interpreted the situation, and she said the strategy felt deliberate. Meanwhile, the public mostly saw Erika appearing on camera and dismissing the controversy. She pushed back on the speculation, urging people to stop while laughing off theories and rejecting the suspicions that Candace had raised about her and people connected to TPUSA, including donors or staff. Now look at the timeline, because that's where Megyn believes the story gets even more interesting. Megyn's public clash with Ben happened during the first week of November. And not long after that, around November 22nd, Erika appeared on the Megyn Kelly Show. Some viewers felt the interview was different from what they expected. Megyn did not press Erika with detailed questions about the issues Candace had raised, and that led some people to speculate that private conversations may have already taken place before the interview. That remains speculation, though, and there is no public confirmation that such discussions happened before the cameras started rolling. Then came the private meeting between Candace and Erika on December 15th, which has continued to spark questions. Some have wondered whether Megyn encouraged the two to meet or played any role in making the conversation happen. Megyn's exact level of involvement has not been publicly established, so those questions remain unanswered. There is also a video of Megyn describing the meeting, and critics have argued that her account does not fully match how they believe the events unfolded. According to Megyn, the meeting was presented as a calm, mutual decision. She described Erika as choosing to fly out instead of handling the discussion through a live stream, framing it as a constructive effort to resolve things face to face. Critics of that version see the timeline differently. They argue that after Candace began looking into Huachuca, Erika traveled quickly and arrived with explanations that referenced Brian Harpootlian.
And he, like many of his supporters, have been using the Candace-Erika feud against me ever since. At the time, I wasn't saying anything about whatever's going on between the two of them because I was working behind the scenes to help them resolve it. I actually had gotten to know Candace a little, and I knew Erika pretty well. And Candace was very, very focused on Turning Point, as she remains, including Erika. And Erika asked me if I would help her broker a peace between the two of them. And I said yes. So I was trying to do that at Erika's request. And people like Ben didn't quite understand, nor did they give a shit. You know, it's like they just assumed I was a coward, I guess. I was too weak to stand up. Meanwhile, it's like I've been asked by the person you purport to be protecting, Erika Kirk, to help her behind the scenes put this to rest. So go fuck yourself. And you're trying to shame me for not coming out and saying, Candace Owens is bad. You know, it's just possible you don't know the whole story.
Based on that interpretation, they view the trip less as a peace gesture and more as an effort to respond to growing public scrutiny. That remains a matter of perspective, and the competing accounts have fueled ongoing debate. The situation became even more complicated afterward. The understanding, according to those involved, was that there would be a temporary pause in public escalation, with neither side making new moves. Even so, critics point out that TPUSA later brought in Gary Fivehead, also known as Paramount Tactical, arguing that the move appeared to conflict with the spirit of that reported ceasefire. So much for keeping the peace. Megyn has said she did not want Candace to be silenced, but critics argue that the same principle should apply consistently. From that perspective, they believe Candace should be free to investigate public figures and ask difficult questions, including about Erika, as long as those questions are grounded in evidence and presented fairly. They see that as accountability rather than a personal attack. One of the biggest points of debate is the timing. Megyn has said that Erika reached out to her in hopes of easing tensions with Candace. At around the same time, Candace was facing heavy criticism online over information she said had been verified. According to Candace, she chose not to publicly identify one of her sources because she wanted to protect that person's identity.
Of course, I don't agree with what she's said about Turning Point, Erika, and she knows that. But my point was simply that I thought maybe Charlie helped me understand, to keep my powder dry in the whole thing, so that maybe I could be in a position to help it happen. It's what Erika wants. Maybe Candace does want an off-ramp, and I'm willing to try. So Candace and I were in touch, and she was very nice. She said, I'm thrilled it's you. I'll do it. So they were going to do it out here in Arizona, and then there was a security issue. Candace said that she couldn't come. And then Erika said, I'll go to you. I'll go to Nashville. Which is just extraordinary. I mean, Erika's been all over the country trying to honor Charlie's commitments on his book tour. She was exhausted. She had this coming up this week. I mean, she's going through, she has 2 babies at home she's now a single mother to. But she really wanted to put this to bed, and so she said, I'll go to you. And then it morphed into, let's not do the live stream. Let's just do it, the two of us, which I thought was great. So they both went in there. Erika brought a trusted friend and employee here, and Candace had someone very close to her, and by all accounts from both women, had a very good meeting. Now,
critics also argue that Erika could have spoken up sooner if she knew additional facts about the source. Though there are competing accounts about what different people knew and when. They believe her silence was inconsistent with the goal of reducing the conflict, while others may see the situation differently. Then there was Erika's appearance with Bari Weiss, where she said, "Stop, just stop," while dismissing the controversy. To critics, that public reaction seemed difficult to reconcile with the reported private efforts to lower the temperature, raising more questions about how the situation was being handled behind the scenes. Critics argue that it's difficult to present one message in private and a different one in public. Megyn has said she reached out to Candace and asked her to stand down, or at least lower the temperature of the conflict. Based on Candace's public approach, many observers believe that conversation was unlikely to change her mind, especially because she has said she believed she had identified specific inconsistencies in Erika's public statements.
Will it last? Where does it go from here? I was joking earlier, like, what's more tenuous, the Gaza peace deal or this situation? What I really want is for Candace to move on from Turning Point and Erika. I have no problem with her asking questions, but not about them. But I also object, for the record, to the people who have tried to shut Candace down entirely on inquiring into what, if any, role did Israel have here. And I want to make clear, I don't think Israel had any role. I think Tyler Robinson killed Charlie. My only question is whether there was some trans-Tifa element that helped him. However, it's okay to ask questions about Israel. And it was Andrew Colvett, the executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show, who sent those texts to the FBI of Charlie's, from that private message. It wasn't a text, it was private messages, like a group chat, in which he said the donors to Turning Point were driving him up the wall, and that he'd had it with them, and that they were making demands of him that he was not prepared to meet, and he was at his wit's end. And he had told me personally that he found their behavior, and I quote, repulsive. So I was fine. Again, I don't think it had anything to do with it, but why did I have an obligation to stop Candace from asking those questions? I didn't, and I didn't call her out because I favored her asking them.
Supporters of Candace have speculated that she may have explained her reasoning to Megyn and pointed to evidence she believed supported her position. What was discussed privately, if anything, has not been made public, so claims about those conversations remain speculation. Some commentators have also imagined how a follow-up conversation between Megyn and Erika might have sounded, particularly if questions were raised about disputed statements regarding Charlie, including references to claims about his condition or an alleged message saying, "They are going to take me out." Those points remain contested, and there is no public record confirming exactly what was said between the people involved. Critics have suggested that Erika's public references to faith, including comments such as, "God is good and works in mysterious ways," "God is intentional," did not directly address the questions being raised. They see those remarks as avoiding the central issues, while others may interpret them differently.
Have some humility. And a real friend, before he stood up in front of millions to attack me as a coward, might have shot me a text to say, "Hey, I'm about to attack you for not doing this thing. I know you to be a good person. Is there a reason you're not doing this thing I demand of you?" And I would have told him. But from that night forward, he and his supporters turned this into like, "You will say the thing about Candace Owens, or you're bad. You're bad and Tucker's bad." And it got lumped, and this whole thing became a proxy for the fight over, like, because they needed me to condemn Candace Owens, not because of what she said about Erika Kirk. To this day, it's not about that. It's because she is the chief critic.
And that brings us to the next major question. What exactly did Ben expect Megyn to do? From Megyn's perspective, it wasn't enough for her to simply say she disagreed with Candace's position on Erika. She suggested the expectation was that she needed to criticize Candace in a very specific way and with a specific tone. When she didn't, Megyn has said that the fallout followed anyway, and she believes that disagreement became a turning point in the dispute. Critics have also argued that Ben and others have spent years publicly pushing back against Candace's work and influence. That's their interpretation of the pattern, while others would likely see those actions as strong public criticism rather than a coordinated effort.
Arguably one of them in the country, arguably one of the chief in the country. And they need me to say she's bad, she's an anti. And now that they've made anything I say, the stakes of the relationship, between me and these people, it's a forever no. It's beyond a no. It's a forever no. That you want to get on my bad side, try to control me. It's just never going to happen. So I won't defriend Tucker. I'm not going to say what they want me to say about Candace, who I've gotten to know much better. And I'm still close with Erika. It is possible. I see what's happening between the two of them. I've said what I'm going to say about it. And I have asked Candace to stop. And I've said I don't approve of what Candace is saying about Erika. But it's never enough. You give them one little... No, you have to say it like this. It has to be this far. You have to go this far about it. You've got to condemn it in these terms. Fuck you. No, I don't.
Ben often presents himself as taking a principled approach on his podcast, but critics say the broader timeline raises questions about that image. More recently, Megyn appeared with the Hodge twins and made comments that many viewers found noteworthy. She said there are still things she does not know, and some people saw that as a sign that her thinking had evolved rather than hardened. While she said she still believes Tyler Robinson was responsible for carrying out the act, she also said she is no longer completely ruling out the possibility that other people or outside influences could have played a role. That shift has become a major point of discussion. Supporters of Megyn argue that her recent comments reflect someone who has been thinking through the situation and adjusting her views as new information and perspectives emerged, rather than simply repeating the same talking points.
And so I feel for Erika, because I don't think Charlie was having an easy time of that. And Erika certainly is not going to be having an easy time with that. You know, like she's left with Charlie's messaging, which was no war with Iran, but that anti-Semitism is brain rot, and probably in no condition to discern what exactly is anti-Semitism and what's not, because like people are conflating that right now. They're expanding that term as we speak to include any criticism of Israel. And Erika, for most of her adult life, has not been a political figure. She's been a wife. She was reality TV. She was a realtor. Like, she hasn't been in the business. This is complex stuff. Right. Even for me, and I've been in law and politics for a long time, decades. So I just think she's probably, and I haven't talked to her about this, but I think she's probably, I don't know, feeling the ground under her feet moving and not wanting to do anything that's going to undermine her husband's organization.
Whether people agree with her or not, they see that willingness to acknowledge uncertainty as meaningful. They also point out that Megyn has generally avoided attacking Candace personally, even while disagreeing with her on certain issues and maintaining a relationship with Erika. Supporters view that as an effort to keep the disagreement focused on the issues instead of turning it into a personal feud. Megyn has also said she has gotten to know Candace better over time, and some believe that has given her a greater understanding of Candace's motivations. From that perspective, they believe Candace sincerely sees her actions as a pursuit of justice for her friend, even if others strongly disagree with her approach. Still, not everyone shares that view. Public reaction has remained deeply divided, and the comment sections have been filled with intense criticism from people on multiple sides of the controversy. The online reaction has been intense. One commenter wrote, "No one does themselves any favors by humoring this kind of insanity and stupidity. Candace Owens is either insane or evil. Neither viewpoint should be defended or celebrated." That response reflects how polarized the debate has become, with some people arguing that simply disagreeing is no longer enough. In their view, if someone does not completely denounce a person, they are seen as enabling them. Other comments focused directly on Megyn. Some accused her of shielding Candace simply because she declined to publicly condemn her. Another commenter described Megyn as blissfully and intentionally ignorant, claiming she had chosen not to look deeper into the controversy and suggesting she had been affected by information control. Those criticisms represent the opinions of individual commenters and remain part of the wider public debate surrounding the situation.
and doing her best to just hold whatever factions she can together so that they don't turn on Turning Point. You know, like, I think based on what we saw at, like, you know, their event in December, AmFest, she would like to keep both factions under the Turning Point roof. I don't know whether it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think she'd like to keep those pro donors on board and not lose the non-interventionalist section of the party. And I don't know whether that's possible either. So that's, you know, you asked me why she hasn't said anything about it. That's my guess, without having spoken to her directly.
So do you think Charlie Kirk's was a coincidence at that point in time where he was starting to turn against it? You think it was just a coincidence?
I don't know.
The commenter went even further, claiming that Megyn was being lied to, that she supposedly knew it, and that, in their opinion, the cost of taking a more independent position on this issue simply wasn't worth it for her. That's a serious accusation, but it's still the commenter's personal opinion rather than an established fact. That criticism stands out because, by many accounts, Charlie and Megyn had a genuine professional connection. He publicly expressed admiration for her, and the two appeared to share common ground on many issues. Toward the end of Charlie's life, he and Megyn were openly discussing one of the most sensitive topics in politics. They spoke about debates surrounding the influence of foreign governments, and Megyn has said that both of them faced accusations of anti-Semitism because of some of the questions and positions they explored. Those accusations were part of a broader public controversy, with supporters arguing they were raising legitimate policy questions and critics strongly disagreeing. Megyn has also said that she and Charlie were going through a similar change in how they viewed certain issues, describing it as a shared journey of rethinking long-held assumptions. She has suggested that Charlie's passing meant he never had the opportunity to fully see where that process might have led. Today, Megyn appears to still be working through many of those same questions, and the more closely people examine her position, the more layered and complicated it seems. And that's where the story takes another interesting turn. Consider how much Megyn has likely seen from her position in the middle of this controversy. She has said that Erika privately reached out in hopes of easing tensions. She's had conversations with Candace that have never been made public. And she's also described her own clash with Ben over how she handled the situation. Those experiences give her a perspective that most people simply don't have. Even so, she has not fully aligned herself with either side. That has sparked a debate of its own. Some people see her approach as thoughtful and measured, while others wonder whether remaining publicly neutral is a strategic choice. Ultimately, that's a matter of interpretation, and people continue to disagree about what her position really means. And that leads to an even bigger question. Was Megyn simply passing messages between people during this controversy, or did she have a larger role in influencing how events unfolded?
About the Candace Owens of it all.
Okay.
I love her, and I really do feel like there's potentially truth to what she's saying. What do you think? Is there something nefarious going on?
Are you talking about Charlie's murder? So I don't listen to Candace's show, but I am 100% convinced that Charlie was killed by Tyler Robinson, a crazed leftist who him because he didn't like Charlie's messaging on the trans issue. That is my firm belief after having talked to the people at Turning Point, the FBI, the security team that was on the ground, and many others. And I've come to that with a good faith basis, and I have nothing that would shake me from it. I don't begrudge anybody asking questions, and I understand the controversy around where she's gone with it. But I think it's really kind of a matter of your preference for your broadcaster. And, you know, Candace is many, many people's cup of tea, and she's not other people's, and I'm the same. And I haven't responded well to people demanding that I try to police her speech.
Based on Megyn's own account that Erika reached out to her, it's reasonable to say Erika viewed her as someone who could help open a line of communication with Candace. Beyond that, though, the extent of Megyn's involvement has not been publicly established. That leaves plenty of room for debate. Some people believe Megyn was genuinely trying to lower the temperature and encourage dialogue between both sides. Others think her actions appeared more favorable to Erika than to Candace. Those are competing interpretations, and viewers have reached very different conclusions based on the same public events. One thing many people would probably agree on is this: if Megyn ever hosted a conversation with both Candace and Erika in the same room, it would likely be one of the most closely watched interviews on the internet. A discussion like that could give each person the chance to explain their perspective directly and answer the questions that have fueled so much public debate. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Megyn was acting as a neutral mediator, or do you see her role differently? Share your perspective in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future uploads.